Good day, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to Alex Sass Show. And this show is really, really fun for us to do. Every time we do it, it's also very, very sad and very urgent that we actually continue to repeat ourselves, because this thing, this agenda, this transhumanism agenda has been pushed on us every day, and it's been pushed on us for a long, long time. It's been attacking our children. It's been attacking our families and our way of life here in the Western world. Glenn, right away, we'll start with this video. I know you liked this video when I showed it to you. Tell me what you see in this video.
I don't know, chat, but I'm not sad. I'm always smiling when I watch this stuff because it's comedy. We're going to do a 30-minute comedy session right now.
What do you see in this video?
Well, I see a bunch of hot young ladies, all pretty good shape, all dressed a little bit conservatively and very beautiful, by the way.
And very sexy too. Well, this looks like I think that might be like some kind of graduation party or something. By the way, they were singing "We Are Russian and We Are Lucky," right?
Book me on a plane, brother. Book me on right away. I'm gone.
You don't really see green hair. You don't see purple hair. You don't see piercings in the face. You don't see facial tattoos or any kind of other visible deformities, bodily deformities. I'm not saying that none of them have it. I'm not saying that there isn't people like that in Russia, but you clearly see something. You don't see fat people, right? That's another thing. And this is in contrast to this, Glenn. I must warn you, brothers and sisters, if this is going to be tough to watch. This is the West. Is this something we're really, really proud of in the West? Are you proud of this culture, brothers and sisters? I think this is taken from the recent Pride events in New York City. Yeah. This is the healthy nation that is growing, and this is the influence in the world. I don't think you see anything like this or anywhere outside of the Western culture. You probably see it in Toronto, but you don't see it anywhere outside of the Western culture. You definitely won't see it in Russia because it's outlawed. You won't see it in Uganda, but you won't see it in many other places. And this is not something to be proud of. I'm going to tell you, if you don't know, if you think that's freedom and how good it is to celebrate freedom like this, you're wrong. This is not innocent celebration. Let's just go there and be... how would you describe this, Glenn? What would be a good word to describe this?
Freak show. It's pagan entertainment. It's neoliberalism. It's wokeism. It's everything. This is what happens when a nation is going down. They've had it too easy for too long, and then their imaginations go wild and as stupid as possibly can be. And now we're seeing it here in real time. I'm sure... My brother, I'm sure you have many more videos like this, so we'll warn the viewers that this is what's going on everywhere, by the way.
I also use the word degenerate because this is definitely the fall of society. And the fall of Rome, remember, like Caligula, that's the stuff that they succumbed to before the empire collapsed. This is nothing new. Germans did the same thing. Like, you don't have to go far back in the history. This is not something that elevates your culture. This is not something that's buildeth on your culture. This is actually what destroys you. This is what destroys your country. And if you're still blind and you don't see it, keep watching the show. And if you think it's just innocent, it's just all fun and games and it has nothing to do with anything, you're wrong. There's definite agenda there. And the way they destroy the society, the way they destroy the culture, the way they destroy the country, the way they destroy you, they destroy your family. And why they're doing this, they are coming after your children. By the way, that's one of the communist policies, and it's one of the agendas that the communists implemented. That's one of their bullet points that's taken straight out of the book. Remove the parent as an influence on the children. Children do not belong to you. Children belong to the authority. And I'll play you more videos. But here's how sick you gotta be if you bring your children to those parades. Let's watch this. I just want you to pay attention to the kids in the crowd. This is sexualization of your kids. This guy is a freak. What is he doing? He's wiggling. He's naked. Well, almost naked. He's wiggling his bits and pieces. He's disgusting, Glenn. I can't believe I just seen this.
Yeah, people are actually cheering this on to watch some overweight guy.
They encouraging him.
Think he's super sexy out there, and look, he's just doing it for attention. Obviously, he's not all there. Not a normal man would never do something like that.
This is mental illness. By the way, brothers and sisters, if you think part of this argument is like, look at the kids, look how innocent and young they are. You're supposed to protect the innocence, not supposed to expose them to this garbage. Okay, and again, it's rainbow flags everywhere, and the kids think, oh, it's so much fun because they have rainbows. This is the colors I like. This is the colors that I use in my coloring book. Yeah, color. Rainbow is a color of hope, and it's been used in the Bible. That's what they saw when they came off, Noah's Ark. Right, Glenn? That's the association with the Bible, really. But the sick part about this is if you say like, okay, well, that's the parents' choice. It's the parents brought the children into the thing. Yeah, and you're right. Those parents are sick. They're demented. And unfortunately, it is their choice. And unfortunately, like I said in my previous rant, that generation of parents is lost, and somehow we need to focus on the new generation of children, and hopefully that they have some better values, so the society can be rebuilt from scratch. Because from now on, forget it, it has to be rebuilt from scratch. We have to focus on the new generations. But there's other element to that. The schools, Glenn. Do you see what they do in schools? Do you think parents even were aware of this thing? It's the teachers and the kids walking around waving flags. Do you think that the kids actually truly understand the point of all this? But they're being brainwashed and conditioned into this rainbow kind of coalition thing going on just because the teachers told them, and they recognize authority in the teacher. And that's what it is. Like, they submit to authority of the teacher. Parents, you don't know this is going on in your school? I hope you do. And I hope you had something to say about this. Glenn, what do you
sorry to rain on your pride parade, but it looks like a mental illness march. Okay, it's one thing when you see grown-up people with mental illness. They don't, they're doing it for entertainment. But then when you see the young children forced to follow, like as though this is the more normal because they can't make proper decisions for themselves. This is the erosion of the future of the society. That's a weakening of the society. And for a parent to be partaking in this, thinking this is cool, or even to want to disassociate themselves and say, well, I don't care, that's the school agenda, let them take care of it. Whose child is that? The most important job you'll ever have is that of being a parent. Let me tell you, for the people who allow this to happen, you're a horrible parent. You are a product of mental illness, and you're instilling this belief system in your children. You need help. There's a way we can save the young people, but for older people allowing this to happen, you really need a lot of help.
And it is a war on your children, brothers and sisters, and they don't hide it. The enemy doesn't hide it. In my opinion, the enemy it's very strong, and we're going to a biblical reference who the enemy is, but it's not just about it starts with the innocent books in your library and not so innocent pride parades, but it's not really innocent. Did you read this article, Glenn? That comes from NBC News, so it must be true. We're coming for your children. Chanted NYC drag march elicits outrage by activists say it's taken out of context. Glenn, are you an activist? Well, how would you describe yourself in relation to this story? Because you're described as an activist.
Yeah, well, thanks to people like Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, Dinesh D'Souza, Mel Gibson, James Woods, Ron DeSantis, and even in Canada, we have Pierre Poilievre. Thanks to men like that, and also the Alex Saz show, and the men that we have on our show together, we are taking a stand for the good. In other words, we're going to fight for what's right, and this stuff will fade away because the right always wins.
Well, they're talking about taking things out of context. Okay, is this taken out of context? Listen to this. Okay, how's that taken out of context? We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children. Which part of that is taken out of context?
Well, all of it. You're there with your flair, but you belong in an asylum.
In Glenn, this is not okay. This is everywhere. This is not just at the Pride Parade in New York City. You have pop stars. You have Hollywood. What would you call them? Role models. How would you call them role models when they parade their children as gender fluids? And it's like, oh, my kid can't choose their own, put boys in dresses and pretend that it's all cool and fun and games, and like, oh, I'm so progressive. Look at me. Obviously, they sold their soul. Like, is where I showed you other examples. And actually, your point, why you think they're doing it? Is it straight up like selling the soul to the industry for the money? Because we know, because of the social credit scores now, because of steps that they're taking like this, they guarantee them the next film. They guarantee them the next movie is a stunt coordinator. They guarantee them the next movie is a performer of any kind. It's all about, is it how easy it is to buy people's souls, Glenn?
Yeah, they're bought and paid for, but you know what? You called them role models to what's going on, but they could also be used as role models as what not to do, because, it's quite obvious they're not well, and they're being paid for a certain agenda to corrupt the minds of society. And this is the result of it. It's happening right in front of your eyes, but the eyes are useless if the mind is blind. And there's a lot of people who they think this doesn't matter, or they're just going to get used to it, or I just want to follow. That's why kudos to those gentlemen that I mentioned before, because they are the leaders. And what we need to do is install this type of thinking and leadership value in the younger men to prevent something like this from ever happening again.
Yeah, and also, the idea is like, well, we get to that in a second. This hasn't been going on just now. This is not like something happened in the last 2 years. I mean, it's sort of progressively gotten to this point. We see an acceleration, the quickening, so-called now, right? Like, it's more up on your face. It's just like people are actually sick of it, and then you see the pushback, and we'll show you the pushback in a bit. But this didn't start yesterday. We covered it in a previous episode about the transgendering children, that experiment that they did in the 70s or 80s, and both kids committed suicide as a result, right? And then now we can't forget, which happened also in the 70s in Berlin. Do you remember that story, Glenn?
Yeah, it's about putting pedophiles with children and trying to look at the reactions, or to engineer reactions under the young children who's unaware of what's going on. That's sickness.
But it was a road to hell paved with good intentions. This is how sick it is. This sick guy, his name, they call that a Kentler project in the West Berlin, routinely placed homeless children with pedophile men, assuming they make ideal foster parents. A study has found the practice went on for decades. And so it wasn't. This sick bastard, starting in 1970s, psychology professor Helmut Kentler conducted his experiment. Homeless children in the West Berlin were intentionally placed with pedophile men. Those men would make especially loving foster parents, Kentler argued. A study conducted by University of Hildesheim has found that authorities in Berlin condoned the practice for almost 30 years, Glenn. The pedophile foster fathers even received a regular care allowance. So pedophiles got money to do what with children, Glenn? God knows what, right? And God knows.
Can you imagine those kids today, champ? What they were put through, and now they have to try and find their way to normalcy, a regular life. But that's going back, over half a century. But this has been going on in other institutions like the Roman Catholic Church. This has been going on for centuries. And, more and more proof comes out, yet you still have people going and supporting this, giving money and saying, well, I only want to look at the good thing that the church has done for me. I don't want to look at all the stuff that's been hidden because I might not like what I see. So I'm going to keep my mind nice and blind.
But it's not any different as people going buying, movie tickets or subscribing to Netflix or Amazon, so Disney Pluses and all that stuff. All those corporations that are pushing that agenda onto the kids and people and stuff like this. We continue to support their business. We continue to give them the money. And okay, if they're making money from the corporate sponsorship, like here in Canada, by the way, in Canada, it's impossible to produce movie on your own or even have any kind of media company like CBC. It's just not sustainable. Canada's not big enough with its population to sustain this, or it's designed that way intentionally. So it has to be sponsored by what? Taxpayers. So your money goes towards things like this. Glenn, you know what else is cool? And it's not cool. We're still talking about schools, right? And this is an older video, but there's some resistance and there's hope. There's hope because there's some kids that don't understand, and there's some younger minds that start to understand and reject this debauchery, reject this degeneracy. This is a wild video, and this is an older video, but there's some really key points, brothers and sisters, that you need to hear from this video. Let's watch this really quick.
You're entitled to your opinion.
If I am, then why would you kick me out of class? It's not very inclusive of
Can I finish my sentence, please? Not very inclusive. No, I'm sorry, what you were saying was not very inclusive, and this is an inclusive school.
Yeah, how was what I was saying?
Because I was saying that what's wrong with the website is that...
So the kid got kicked out of the class because he stated that there are only two genders, and that's his teachers coming to tell him why he's being kicked out.
There are more than one gender in this country.
That's your opinion.
That is my opinion, and that is an opinion which is acceptable in the school. I'm afraid yours, which you're saying that there's no such thing as anyone other than male or female, is not inclusive.
Scientifically, there are just two genders, depending on what
I get
gender.
But you're choosing to make an issue of this, because I said, are you really going to hear? That was your opportunity to keep quiet.
You made the issue with it on the website. You said, this website doesn't have more than two genders.
Murray, you were clearly given an opportunity not to pursue it. You chose to do so.
Well, what he's saying, you've been clearly given opportunity to submit.
Yeah, and he should be given an A+ in biology.
Yeah, because I think it's
You chose to do so. Yes, that's the key question. You chose to do so.
I think it's silly to have anything other than two genders. So
Okay.
Anything else is a personal
Could you please keep that opinion to your own house? Thank you. Not in the
So
school.
you get to put your opinion out in class, and my
No,
opinion
I am not.
My opinion has to stay inside
I am
my
not
house.
putting my opinion. I am not putting my opinion out. I am stating what is national school authority policy.
Okay. National school authority policy. Submit to my authority. This guy is sick. This country is sick. This country is doomed. It's an authority. This is Western society. Because, well, he's clearly speaking English. This is not Russia. This is not China. This is not North Korea. It might as well be North Korea or China for that matter.
Champ, even in the school libraries, there are some of the older fashioned books, let's say, masculinity books or normal books that would be called toxic today, they want to put labels on them as though the book could trigger people. Like, like the labels they put on cigarette boxes, that it could be bad for your health. Reading this book could be bad for your health. Can you imagine?
Well, are you using the example of the book Sun Also Rises? The reason why they republished it in the way, who wrote Brothers and Sisters? That's actually one of my favorite books, Ernest Hemingway. It's a really funny comedy set in around right after World War One. The main character, unfortunately, had an accident in the war where he lost his manhood, quite literally, or lost the use of his manhood, and he's in love with this main character, a woman, female, played. Well, if you watch the movie, if you're too lazy to read a book, you can watch a movie. It's pretty good. It's close enough to the book itself. And Eva Gardner plays the female interest of the guy, and they cannot click because she's a loose woman. I don't know how else to describe her. She has a lot of love interest chasing her, and she's chasing after them. And it's a comedy in the way, but she has a lot of men competing after her, but she's in love with the guy who lost the use of his manhood. The funny part is, in this book, there's actually a gay character. Back in the day, they didn't come out and say that, but if you read the book, and I'm curious what you say, Bill, I believe, is a gay character, and that's how Ernest Hemingway also portrayed his alter ego, because some people think Ernest Hemingway, even though as tough as he was, he had this sort of like that kind of thing going for him, like that bisexual thing going for him back in the day. So I don't know, Glenn, even though they put a label on reprinting it because, this book's language is offensive and maybe even racist, even though they had a gay character in it named Bill. If you don't believe me, read the book and we can discuss it in a book club afterwards. Glenn, but this war continues, and it's sick. Like, you asked the question where all those people, like poor kids that was subjected to those programs, where do they end up? I have an idea. Maybe this is where they end up. Just a second, right here. I'll show you. 1 second. This is Rachel Levine. She may be part of that program.
Hello, my name is Admiral Rachel Levine, and I have the honor of being the Assistant Secretary for Health at the United States Department of Health and Human Services. Happy Pride. Happy Pride Month, and actually, let's declare it a summer of pride. A summer of pride. Happy Summer of Pride.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Secretary of Mental Health.
That makes no sense. You're right. That's the Secretary of Health. How she can be Secretary of Health? This is the least healthy person in any way possible, including mentally. But if we argue against it forever, then there's some people they'll tell you trans women are women.
Trans women are women.
What does that have to do with
Trans
abortion?
women are women.
I
They call
support
abortion.
trans
Trans
women.
women are women. Trans women are women.
Can trans women have an abortion?
Trans women can.
Well,
Because they're women.
What about the trans?
Did it make any sense to you? Like this is how, Glenn. That's why it's mentally sick.
Mainstreaming abomination, just a giant freak show, keep playing over and over as though like people are going to get used to this. No, they're not going to get used to it. What's happening is there's being a buildup of a pushback to get to better and build back better to a normal reality. Okay, so that's the what's really happening. More people are starting to take a stand. They've had enough. I mean, they let them have their time in the sun for a little while, but the sun's going down, and that's it for them. It couldn't come any sooner, but you have to watch out because there's the AI, the chat bots, and they're going to be making sex bots for people who are very weak, like simp type of men who are sissies, and they can't really go out and look to meet a woman because they have low self-esteem. They're shy of everything. They don't have too many good things going for them because they give up too easily. They relinquish whatever authority that they could have. And it's the pussification of the man. And so for them to even have a normal sexual relationship, their normal, is they have to do it online through a chat bot, which will eventually be a sex robot that they can order according to their liking, and that'll come to their house, and that's going to be their new relationship model. Maybe that's a good thing, because like that, these type of men won't be able to reproduce, so they won't be able to create more weak men like them.
And brothers and sisters, if you think it's far-fetched, they already implemented it in Facebook. So you have like the metaverse, which is, by the way, a failed project of Zuckerberg, but Facebook's tool to create AI chatbot is being used to build sex bots. I always said that this whole transgender thing is the first step towards transhumanism, and like even Elon Musk with his Neuralink and putting the microchips linking people to computers and basically making bionic people, and who knows, like with all this robotech technology. On one hand, it'll be good. It will help handicapped people that lost use of their limbs due to spinal injuries and stuff like this. Or maybe somebody who lost their limbs can have a robotic limb installed and all that stuff. That's actually a positive use of this technology. But for some reason, Glenn, I doubt that's how they use it.
Champ, something just popped in my head when I was thinking about, these pedophiles. They don't get better, right? So what you could do is make a child sex bot for the pedophiles. Keep these morons entertained.
They already do. You can already order it on Amazon.
And that would minimize the chance of real children becoming a target.
But they have that, and that was a big scandal. But do you think like that's still perpetuating this sort of like sick behavior? And like, well, you think this guy is not going to control himself only and limit his sick perversion to a doll, or at some point he's going to get wild and go outside in the public?
Well, what you could do is you say, look, if you want to do it artificially with this sex bot, pedophilia, that's your prerogative. That's why it's out there. But if you get convicted of being a pedophile to a real child, you get the death penalty. That would be something.
And now people actually, pushing for that. They are pushing death penalty for pedophiles. But okay, I'll get back to transhumanism really quickly, brothers and sisters. And there's this video of just a second. There's this video of premature lambs were kept alive in special bags. So they actually created artificial womb, and they were able to raise lambs in artificial womb. So that's another extra step closer that brings us closer to this whole Matrix scenario. If you've seen the movie, and basically the people were raised in capsules similar to this, what I'm showing you here right now, and waited for the fetus to mature into big enough being that it could be released in the wild, so to speak. And it's similar technology they're going to try to implement on kids, premature kids that for some reason delivered earlier. And who knows what that may lead to. Again, it has a positive implication, just, if the mothers have premature birth. But what if it's all this technology? And look, it's World Economic Forum, Glenn, brought you by. So there's definitely is some shenanigans going on in there, because if those children are not raised by parents, and that's the whole idea is trying to remove kids from families and raise them so basically slaves, right? So that's what Matrix, and eventually, like in the Matrix movie, those people would just use like batteries. And I believe it's already happening in some way. So people are the greatest resource, but not what you think. Glenn, what else is happening?
It's strange with what you just saw. They spend a fortune coming up with technologies to try and save a premature baby, you know, and good on to them because they want to protect life. Meanwhile, you have the opposite where you have wanting to try and make it free to abort an unborn child, to get rid of the life. So you have these dichotomies at the same time. And on both sides, what is the goal? It's just for financial gain. It's not about society as a whole. It's who can capitalize on it the most.
Glenn, did you see this story? Here's happened in Canada. Leduc RCMP seeks information on Pride crosswalk vandalism. So somebody burned tires on a, you know what that flag called? I just learned today. It's called progressive Pride flag. Whatever. It happens some other places in North America, but RCMP like has nothing better to do. Don't we have this whole China collusion thing? And RCMP chooses to focus on this instead of putting all the resources into what utmost important to our national security.
You know, they're using the militias, get this, to police the tweets. In other words, if you could offend somebody. But then there's somebody else that says, no, you should be using the police to police the streets. And then we just saw, police the streets for the crosswalks, all the money being spent on flag painting of the crosswalk. So, you know.
It's worse than that, Glenn. They actually put out, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, put out a statement on their website. A recent spike in hate incidents targeting 2SLG, blah, 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 whatever communities, prompts RCMP to encourage all Albertans to report any hate-related incidents to police. So exactly what you just said. Exactly what you just said. This is straight up communism. That's the asking brothers to snitch on brothers.
Yeah, it's the implementation of the nanny state. We're going to watch over everything you do, and we're going to control your behavior to what we deem is right and what we want to create. This is what people are giving up their freedoms for. Collectively, you know, you have the power. The government works for you, but you have to flex together to show this power. But if you're all divided up and weak, well, they're just going to keep doing more and more of it. And then what are you going to do? Throw up your hands and complain? Or the government's going to say jump and you're going to say how high? That's, you know, we see that in places like China, where the people are terrified all the time and they wear face masks. And we see it over here. We had a couple of days of, you know, a little bit of leftovers from the fires, and they were in the skies, and people were not coming out of their homes. And the people that were, there was so many masks. It was like it was worse than the scamdemic at the time. And you just look at that, and they just want to be told what to do and how to think by the government because they relinquished their responsibilities. And the government makes them feel better because they're perpetually engulfed in fear. So logic decision-making is completely eradicated. And this is how you have the control mechanism, top-down control by the World Economic Forum studying human behavior and telling the governments in each country how to implement and take the control away from the people.
Amazing. That's a good assessment. But people start to push back and resist. And there's many different ways you can do it. At least stand up for what's right. Like this kid that we showed in school, he just said, no, I'm not going to submit to your authority where you're going to tell me your opinion is like, oh, no, it's not my opinion. It's the opinion of the school authority. But, you know, the school authority is not the authority. The authority, the only authority there is and to which you need to submit is God. And there's a different way to explain what that means, but you definitely don't submit to authority of men when they tell you there's a million genders and you need to follow that through. And then you need to mutilate and transition children at a young age and sexualize them, and that's the good thing to do for you and your society. And if you don't, you should be damned. No, it's the other way around, brothers and sisters. So this guy, a biology professor at St. Philip's College, fired for teaching that sex is determined by chromosomes. And well, he sued back, and I don't know and that happened actually in Texas, Glenn. Like, why would you and that's St. Philip's, that's a religious institution?
Yeah, that happened in San Antonio, Texas, the big city in Texas. You know, this craziness only happens in the big cities because you have so much confusion and everything going on at the same time. So they're able to get away with it because they can blend in. This never happens, let's say, in rural towns, or it's dissipated rather quickly. So, anyways, he'll be back. He's going to get his job back for being a biology teacher and teaching students that biology is determined, true biology, by the creator and through nature is the XX chromosomes for women and XY chromosomes for men. And there are no XYZ Fruit Loop group community. That's all make-believe. That's imaginations gone into abominations. And that's the result of it. If you can't recognize that, well, good luck to you.
We also have this story. We covered it last week. Lawrence Fox, the guy who played Hunter Biden in the Biden story, will not face hate crime charges for burning LGBTQ2 plus progressive pride flag.
Progressive. That's what you liked before. Apparently, the lad burned it in his own backyard. Okay, that's on his own property. And he just filmed it to put it online to show his point of view. And now they wanted to charge him with a hate crime, but that wouldn't stick. So, there is a push back coming. And when you follow the constitutions and the freedoms and the rights and the liberties, you see that we get back to a right normal. And no, you should not be charged for, showing your opinion about something that really is so ridiculous.
He's also running for government, so that's a good news, right? So that was a good promo for him. There's also pushback in the House and the Senate. Republicans take a buzzsaw to the wokeness in the military, so they repeal some woke laws that were pushed by the previous majority in the Senate and the House, and they repealed all this woke agenda in the military. By the way, I have a theory about that, Glenn. The reason why they started with for example, with the COVID and shot mandates. The people that are the most patriotic and the ones that are going to defend not only the country from external enemy, but also the internal enemy, are also probably the ones who are not only just righteous in its own guard, but also have strong beliefs and strong values, including like protecting freedoms in general. And I believe they were made to quit by forcing, those spike shots in them. To leave the good followers, like the brainless soldiers, to weed out all those patriots who could actually oppose and resist, the tyranny of the authoritarian government that, now is permeated throughout the Western culture. And I think the same thing was happening with the wokeness culture. A lot of people, the patriots, would not join the army because it lost all its meaning. Glenn, is that a good assessment?
Yeah, to go further in, who would ever have thought this would be going on in the U.S. Armed Forces military bases, okay, where the families of the soldiers live in unison together, and they had to stop. I didn't even know they had started, but apparently it's been going on for a while. But they had to stop drag shows and drag queen storytelling on these U.S. bases.
Also, simultaneously, this is Jim Banks commenting on Twitter. Simultaneously, the Pentagon is trying to increase military recruitment for women while forcing female service members to share showers with biological men. Right? It makes no sense. Just passed my amendment to report on the impact of Biden's radical transgender ego. It's not Biden's ideology. He's just he's not even a good spokesman, as we showed you previously. He's just a walking around mummy corpse. My feeling, he's been dead a long time, and this is just like the Weekend at Barney's part 3 or part 4, whatever it is. That's what it reminds me of, Glenn.
Yeah, this is just mental illness, and they want to mainstream that as normal. And then when you have people who are mentally sharp, well, now we're being labeled abnormal.
Is this guy mentally sharp? That's what he's proud of. But he's the official spokesman of G7 and World Economic Forum and whatever other organization he belongs to for LGBTQ degenerate debauchery thing going on. So he's like, yeah, go into places where there's not enough flags and paint them on the walls and the roads, and yeah, be proud. Look at that smile. And the reason why he's putting forward, as you said, it's like all those laws that he puts forward so that he kind of legalizes himself, makes himself more acceptable, because he is not only Castro's son, he's also his mother's son, and she wasn't the best. I don't know. I heard stories, Glenn. I heard stories about his mother. So maybe he'll learn from her.
One thing about Trudeau, if I was to give him one compliment, I would say he's a very good actor. He is able to convince the Canadian people that he's a good leader, at the same time as being a leadership and leading everybody astray as to what is good, what is right, what should be deemed normal. And that's the one compliment I would give to him. He wears many hats and or costumes, like Mr. Dress Up. And he's very, very good at confusing the Canadian population.
He's also really good at uniting people, specifically the religious right, the Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims. Check out this video.
Prime Minister's office. Holy jumping.
What are they chanting?
The flag has to go. And put the Canadian flag back up there where it belongs. Politics, there's no space, no room for this in politics, okay?
Yeah, but that's actually a good thing to see, people coming together and resisting to this idiocracy. But it's coming on all fronts.
That's not the job of governments, brother. That's not the job of governments to push societal ideology.
But it's not the government is just being used as a tool, as we know. It's the people like BlackRock's. They're forcing the behavior by buying the politicians and telling them what to do and what to implement. And this remember our friend Bill Gates and his Epstein escapades, Glenn? He actually, this has happened a while ago, many years ago, and he's a known pedophile, and he's not just a eugenicist. He is a known pedophile, and he is the corporate master who pushes this ideology throughout all the corporations and buys other politicians and everything else. And he was able to buy a poor guy who was working for him, and pretend all those childhood pornography is yours. I'll write you a check. I'll write your family. You got to suck it up a little bit. You got to be on this sex registered list for a while. Maybe go to jail for a few years, but you'll be a millionaire when you come out. Glenn, do you remember this story? I'll show you.
Charged with having and trading a massive amount of child pornography. KIRO 7's Gary Horker is live near the Gates compound in Medina. And Gary, this man worked as an engineer for the family.
That's what SPD intelligence found out, Steve. They found out that the man actually worked for the Bill and Melinda Gates mansion on the grounds of their sprawling 66,000 square foot estate, and that's where they found him and questioned him last March. The estate is behind us right on the lakefront here, but this is a few blocks away, and it's as close as their security will allow us to get. But according to King County prosecutors, 51-year-old Rick Allen Jones was questioned by detectives about images of child porn and even child rape that were sent from Jones's home computer. Now, none of this alleged crime actually happened at the Gates mansion, but it was here that Rick Allen Jones.
How convenient, Glenn, isn't it? that's a cop-out story for Bill Gates and a half. And now that we know many years later, his whole Epstein story and even his wife complaining about his pedophile escapades with Epstein, it makes more sense that that was actually his materials. But again, it's because the God has been removed and people have no accountability. People are not afraid of committing such debauchery. They have no values. There's no standard, and there's no accountability, and there's no Jesus in their life and of the world. They do as they please. They live in the moment. They live in instant gratification kind of world. And and look at the eyes. You can tell those people apart right away. They just empty followers, NPCs as they call them. What?
Sorry? No. You're looking at it. I was showing it.
All right, so you're
showing
going
it to
to
you.
do some kind of terrifying interview.
No, I don't do that. No, you looked interested. You look interested in the name.
Correct, not political.
Right.
What's your?
Groom dogs, not children.
Oh God.
How do you feel about that?
What does that mean?
It means basically I think it'd be a better idea if people concentrated on how their dogs looked rather than trying to teach children about queer ideology.
Oh,
No?
no.
So you like the idea of teaching children queer ideology?
Yes.
Yes? And what about queer ideology? Do you think it's imperative that 3-year-old and 4-year-old children know? What may be an implication between involved in teaching a 3 or 4-year-old about queer ideology?
It's just teaching them about the world.
About the world?
Yeah.
It's supposed to protect child's innocence from the world.
I'm not.
The problem is you are of the world and you need to seek Jesus Christ our Lord and Saviour. You do.
That's the point, right? He's like, oh, I want to teach about the world. You want to sexualize your children? At what point do kids need to know anything about any kind of, even if it's a straight sexuality? You going to teach your kids? You going to take them to the strip club at age 3, 4? That's what you're doing. We just showed you those parades, whatever they're called, pride parades, where it's basically a strip club on steroids. And some of them, like we showed you a few episodes ago, they're riding bikes butt naked, showing all their genitalia to the tiny little kids. You wouldn't take your children to a strip club, but you're taking them to this. You do need God in your life. You have no accountability. You have no fear of the Lord. You don't obey. That's actually one of the secrets to life is obedience to the Lord. Glenn, there's good news though, and we'll close with that. There's Mel Gibson sponsoring this show. It's coming out soon, and it's about sex trafficking children from places like Ukraine, and they are coming for your children in many different ways, and we need to protect our children, not just because it's the future, but it's because it's the innocence of the world. This is actually amazing what those guys are doing.
To desensitize the world to the sexualization of children.
It's called The Hidden War, the series that's coming out soon. And there's a movement to normalize pedophilia, and that's what we just showed you in every video, in every clip, in every news article.
This was my moment, really, of epiphany, where I never saw those two worlds so closely connected. This criminal network, because the culture has their back, they're bolstered now in ways I've never seen.
So long story short, that those guys did the movie, and when they went to Ukraine to free some children, they saw a pedophile child sex trafficking network. And they rescued like thousands of kids from the conflict area. And we are gracious and thankful that they actually have this, we have this kind of thing going on. And I'm looking forward to seeing this because this is sick. And there's good to know that we actually this information start to come out, and there's good people out there that actually doing God's work. Glenn, we're going to close the show. I'll play something at the really end, and it's important you guys understand that we don't care anymore, Glenn. We're sick of listening to the other side and accepting it and accepting this political corruptness crap that's coming from all the directions. I'm sick of you, well, not you, brothers and sisters, but I'm sick of the society being silent about this. And that's why we're speaking up against this here now, because the enemy is pushing this stuff and stuffing it down our throats really, really hard. And we don't care anymore. And, I've learned this from Mel Gibson. He doesn't care anymore. Listen to my man, Mel Gibson.
Number one fear is what do you think it is? People's number one fear is public humiliation. Okay? I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm not afraid of it. Because I've had plenty. And now, it's just time for me to say, I'm tough. Because what does not kill you makes you strong. So it's, whatever you hear. Hey, you never believe anything you hear and only believe half of what you see. My mother told me that. And it's pretty true.
That's what Rome told us. Glenn, any closing words?
Yeah, you see, we all should be very happy and gracious that we've been given this chance to be born and to be partake in this beautiful game of life. The Creator gave us free will, where we decide how we're going to navigate ourselves through this amazing game of life. But unfortunately, with this free will, it also created an opportunity for evilness to set in through compulsive behavior. So I call on my brothers to understand that you have a free will, but you're going to have to exercise this free will to what you believe in. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And this was what it looks like right now. But then you have what we just heard, Mel Gibson saying he doesn't care. He's going to do it anyways. He's been attacked, humiliated, and look, he's still there. And now he has a free will, and he's going to exercise this free will, this human right, to the best of advantage to make humanity better.
This was amazing. Thank you, Glenn, for being such a good man on this earth. Man. Stay man like this, man. If you were man enough, you would jump in the cold water with an axe. Brothers and sisters, we'll see you in the next one.